Welcome to a One Storyteller, where every story is a journey into the heart of human nature, discipline, and the timeless lessons history offers us. Today, you're about to witness a tale that goes far beyond a simple act of mischief, a story that reveals how respect for tradition and authority is not just old-fashioned etiquette, but a vital principle that shapes the very fabric of society. Imagine standing before centuries of royal heritage, where every uniform, every gesture, and every silent sentinel carries the weight of history and honor. Now imagine one person daring to challenge that, to rip off the royal guard's mustache, thinking it a harmless prank. But what happens next isn't just about a pulled mustache. It's about lessons in respect, discipline, and the consequences of crossing sacred boundaries. Stay with us as we unfold this unforgettable story. In a world where cultures intersect more than ever before, understanding and respecting cultural symbols is paramount. These symbols, whether they be objects, traditions, uniforms, or gestures, are more than just visual markers. They are repositories of meaning, memory, and identity. When someone disrespects such a symbol intentionally or through ignorance, it often sparks more than mere disapproval. It provokes collective outrage, emotional responses, and sometimes serious repercussions. Take, for example, the act of touching or interfering with a royal guard in the UK. On the surface, this might seem like an amusing tourist prank or a harmless joke, especially to someone unfamiliar with British customs. But for citizens of the United Kingdom, and particularly those connected to its institutions, the royal guards are not entertainers. They are protectors of tradition and national pride. Their uniforms, behavior, and even their famed stoicism all symbolize a centuries-old legacy. They are there not just for show, but to maintain a ceremonial connection to the monarchy and serve in security roles as well. When the tourist in this story dared to reach out and tug on the guard's mustache, he didn't just cross a line physically. He trespassed on a sacred cultural boundary. The mustache, part of the guard's meticulously maintained appearance, isn't just facial hair, it's part of the uniform. The uniform, in turn, is a symbol of duty, honor, and unbroken history. The guard is trained to withstand all kinds of provocations, but interfering with the guard's person, especially in such a personal, physical way, instantly transforms a situation from humorous to hostile. It's no longer a joke. It's a breach of respect. Disrespecting cultural symbols often leads to consequences because societies place inherent value in these representations. They're not arbitrarily significant. They embody ideals, sacrifices, and communal pride. The moment someone mocks or desecrates them, it feels like a direct insult to a people's identity. In the case of the Queen's Guard, the punishment wasn't only the tourist's embarrassment or his swift removal from the scene. The video of the incident traveled across the globe, and with it came universal criticism. He was publicly shamed, ridiculed online, and painted as a cautionary tale of what happens when one fails to understand the importance of respecting a host country's heritage. Disrespect doesn't always result in legal punishment, but social repercussions can be just as lasting. In today's digital age, any disrespectful act can be captured, shared, and replayed endlessly, leading to far-reaching consequences for the perpetrator's reputation. What might begin as a moment of impulse, immaturity, or even cultural ignorance can quickly evolve into a viral scandal. For the individual, this may mean losing job opportunities, facing online harassment, or carrying the stigma of having disrespected a nation for years to come. Moreover, disrespect often reveals deeper issues, a lack of empathy, a sense of entitlement, or cultural superiority. When someone mocks a sacred symbol, whether knowingly or unknowingly, it often reflects how little they consider or understand perspectives outside their own. And that makes others defensive, even hostile. Because if someone can't respect what you hold dear, how can they respect you? Sometimes, disrespect happens without intent. A person might unknowingly step on a sacred threshold, touch an object they didn't know was sacred, or say something offensive without understanding its implications. This is why cultural awareness and humility are vital, especially when traveling or interacting with other traditions. What might seem like a harmless gesture in one culture could be a deep offense in another. In this story, the tourist's physical act, pulling at a guard's mustache, seemed like a moment of cheeky humor. But the consequences unraveled swiftly. The response wasn't just about the act itself, but what it symbolized. It signified a lack of respect, a disregard for boundaries, and an underestimation of the importance of tradition. Whether the consequences were legal, social, or personal, they served as a reminder that cultural symbols are not toys. They're threads in the tapestry of national pride and must be treated with care. The Queen's Guard, known for their unblinking stoicism, red tunics, and tall bearskin hats, is more than just a tourist attraction outside Buckingham Palace. They are, in essence, walking symbols of British tradition, continuity, and military excellence. Every detail of their presence, the precision of their stance, the shine of their boots, the silence they maintain, is steeped in history. These guards are real soldiers, not actors. Many of them have served in active duty and been part of Britain's regiments across the globe. Their discipline is not for show. It is a reflection of the core values of British military tradition. Every hour they spend standing motionless in the sun, rain, or snow represents not just physical endurance, but the mental resilience the British Army prides itself on. These guards aren't simply being serious. They are fulfilling ceremonial duties with the same intensity and focus required on the battlefield. The tradition of standing guard at royal residences dates back hundreds of years. Through wars, monarch transitions, and social revolutions, the Queen's Guard has remained a visual constant in the UK. They serve as both protectors and symbols of the monarchy's lasting presence. For many Britons, especially older generations, the sight of the Guard evokes a sense of national stability and pride. They are a daily reminder of history being kept alive through ritual and responsibility. That's why interfering with them, mocking them, taunting them, or physically touching them is taken seriously. When a person pulls on a guard's mustache, they aren't just harassing a man in uniform. They're interrupting a ritual that links past generations to the present. It's an act that breaks the sanctity of that chain, and that's deeply offensive to people who see that uniform and stance as sacred. Even the guard's stillness is a form of communication. It tells visitors, "I am here to serve, not entertain. This is a sacred role, and I take it seriously." That kind of discipline doesn't come easy. It takes years of training, not just physically but mentally. These guards are trained to ignore noise, gestures, even insults, all to maintain the high standard of professionalism that defines them. It's a tradition that is passed from one soldier to the next, forming a core part of their identity as part of the royal forces. The Guards' iconic bearskin hats themselves are remnants of military history, originally worn to make soldiers appear taller and more intimidating on the battlefield. Now, they serve a ceremonial purpose, but their origins are never forgotten. Everything about the Guard, from their slow, deliberate pace to the sharpness of their uniform, is meaningful. So when someone disrespects them, they are not just disrespecting a person. They are disrespecting centuries of tradition, values, and sacrifice. It is not unlike mocking a national flag or defacing a war memorial. To a local, the emotional resonance is profound, and for the guard himself, enduring such disrespect while maintaining composure is part of his discipline. But that doesn't mean the act goes unnoticed. Guards are permitted to issue warnings if someone becomes too aggressive or disrespectful. They do not act unless absolutely necessary, which further illustrates the level of control and training involved. The public also plays a role in defending this tradition. When a tourist goes too far, it is often the crowd, not just the authorities, who voice their disapproval. In the case of the Mustache incident, gasps, camera flashes, and hurried footsteps echoed through the plaza as people realized that a line had been crossed. Some stepped forward to apologize to the guard, while others turned on the tourist in real time, calling out his behavior. The respect the British public and informed tourists have for the Queen's Guard isn't just about admiration. It's about shared values. It's an understanding that some symbols transcend mere appearances. They are embodiments of endurance, duty, and tradition, and those who protect such traditions, like the Queen's Guard, deserve more than just polite observation. They deserve reverence. Every year, millions of tourists pour into London to experience the grandeur and legacy of the British monarchy. Among the most iconic sights are the royal guards standing stiff and silent at posts like Buckingham Palace, St. James's Palace, and Windsor Castle. Clad in bright red tunics and imposing bearskin hats, these guards have become symbols of British tradition and, to the unfamiliar, a sort of living spectacle. But behind the stoic silence and photogenic appearance lies a well-established set of rules and duties that many tourists either don't know or choose to ignore. There's a common misconception among visitors that the guards are there for show, akin to actors in costume, playing a role for the sake of tourism. This misunderstanding stems partly from the guards' visible presence in public spaces and their motionless stance, which can resemble a statue more than a soldier. It's not uncommon to see tourists pulling faces, striking poses, or trying to distract the guard for the sake of a laugh or a viral video. Some take it further, mock salutes, silly dances, or even physical contact, believing these antics are harmless or part of the experience. The reality is very different. These are highly trained members of the British Army, many of whom have served in actual combat zones. Their role during ceremonial duty is as serious as any other military assignment. They are not permitted to break form or speak unless it becomes necessary, which is part of why their composure is so admired. The idea that they can be prodded for amusement or entertainment is a complete misunderstanding of their role. Their duty is to guard, to observe, and to maintain presence, not to entertain. Tourists often come with preconceived notions based on internet videos or hearsay. Viral clips that show guards yelling or reacting tend to circulate with little context, leading people to believe it's all part of the show. This perception leads to dangerous behavior, where people push boundaries thinking the worst they'll get is a loud command or perhaps a few seconds of fame. What they fail to realize is that every step, stance, and command from the guard is part of a carefully maintained protocol. When a guard reacts, it's not for entertainment, it's enforcement. The guards operate under specific rules of engagement. They are allowed to issue verbal warnings when someone gets too close, blocks their path, or behaves aggressively, In cases of physical interference, such as touching the guard or their uniform, they are trained to respond swiftly and assertively. The guards may stamp their feet, point their weapons, or issue a firm command to step back. These aren't reactions of amusement, but measures taken to protect their post, their dignity, and the tradition they represent. Unfortunately, the blend of excitement, cultural ignorance, and the desire for unique content often overrides respect. The sight of tourists lying on the ground for a funny angle, sticking cameras inches from a guard's face, or shouting jokes to provoke a reaction is all too common. There is rarely malice in these acts, but the lack of understanding is dangerous. Many visitors are unaware that they are standing on government property with strict behavioral expectations. These areas are not amusement parks. They are active military zones, albeit ceremonial. Even small children, influenced by adults around them or the internet, imitate what they've seen without grasping the seriousness. Parents sometimes even encourage their kids to pose or play near the guards, not realizing the poor message this sends about boundaries and respect. In most cases, the guards endure these antics silently, but there is always a line, and once it's crossed, action must be taken. There are also signs posted around many of these locations indicating that the guards are on duty and should not be approached or interfered with. But in the flurry of excitement and selfies, those signs are often ignored. What's missing is a broader educational approach, one that prepares tourists to appreciate the guard not just as a photo opportunity, but as a representative of a proud military history. In many respects, tourists misunderstand the setting entirely. Buckingham Palace and its surroundings are not tourist attractions in the conventional sense. They are working sites of national importance. The guards are not part of an attraction. They are there to protect it. And while photography is allowed and watching the changing of the guard is encouraged, there is a strict, unspoken code of conduct that must be followed. Breaching that code, even for a joke, can result in removal, questioning by security, or even legal consequences. At the heart of this misunderstanding is a cultural gap, a failure to appreciate what the guards represent. In some countries, similar ceremonial soldiers may allow for playful interactions. But in the UK, the guard's role is bound by tradition, military discipline, and national pride. Recognizing that distinction is the first step toward showing the proper respect. When the tourist dared to reach out and pull the mustache of a Queen's Guard, he likely didn't anticipate the explosion of global attention that would follow. Someone in the crowd had their phone out, as they almost always do these days, and within moments, the footage was online. It was uploaded to multiple social media platforms within hours, and by the next day, was being shared by influencers, media outlets, and reaction channels across continents. A single act of foolishness had spiraled into a full-blown viral event. What made the video so irresistible to internet audiences was the sheer audacity of the act. Viewers couldn't believe that someone had been bold or foolish enough to physically touch a royal guard, let alone attempt to tug at his facial hair. The fact that it happened at one of the most heavily visited and culturally significant landmarks in the UK only amplified the spectacle. It wasn't just a prank. It was a breach of protocol in a place surrounded by international attention and historical weight. The reactions online were swift and divided. Some found it funny, especially those unfamiliar with British customs. They treated the footage as just another outrageous moment to laugh at, another meme to circulate. But a larger portion of viewers, particularly those from the UK or countries with strong ceremonial traditions, were outraged. They condemned the tourists' behavior as disrespectful, ignorant, and disgraceful. Comment sections filled with people demanding consequences, and many expressed concern about how modern tourism often overlooks local values. News outlets picked up the story with eye-catching headlines. Phrases like "tourist crosses the line," "Royal Guard harassed," and "British tradition mocked on camera" flooded feeds and news tickers. Experts weighed in, explaining the significance of the Queen's Guard, the rules surrounding royal premises, and the potential legal implications. Former soldiers and royal commentators spoke out on television and radio, using the incident as a launchpad for wider discussions on respect, entitlement, and global travel behavior. The tourist himself was eventually identified, and within days, his personal social media accounts were flooded with messages, some mocking, many scathing. His name began trending in certain circles, and depending on the country and platform, he was either labeled a prankster or a disgrace. This is the double-edged sword of virality. One moment of infamy can define your identity for years. Job prospects, personal relationships, and public reputation all became affected by a few seconds of bad judgment captured on camera. Interestingly, the virality of the video also sparked a wave of educational responses. Content creators who specialize in history, culture, or travel began making videos explaining why the act was so offensive. They unpacked the history of the Queen's Guard, the military training behind the role, and why physical interaction is strictly prohibited. In that way, the incident, while negative, also became a catalyst for learning and cultural conversation. On TikTok, duets and reactions to the video surged. Some mimicked the incident in exaggerated skits, while others used their platforms to call for better education around cultural respect. YouTube reaction videos ranged from comedic to angry, with some creators even visiting the palace afterward to demonstrate what proper conduct around the guards looks like. As quickly as the tourist had become infamous, the internet turned his act into a symbol of what not to do abroad. The meme culture didn't miss its chance either. Still images of the guard's impassive face, juxtaposed with the tourist's startled expression, were turned into endless joke formats. But many of those memes were laced with commentary, mocking not the guard, but the foolishness of disrespecting someone doing their job. Even humor, in this case, had an underlying lesson. The virality had ripple effects on tourism discourse. Tour guides in London began emphasizing etiquette more strictly, and local authorities put up clearer signage. There were even reports of schools using the video in lessons about global awareness and the consequences of internet fame. As is often the case, the internet gave the story a lifespan far beyond what a local news cycle could sustain. For weeks, the video remained a reference point in discussions about tourism, discipline, and respect. In that way, it became more than just a clip. It became a cultural moment, one that encapsulated the tension between personal freedom and public decorum in the age of social media. In the face of unexpected disrespect and violation of personal space, the Queen's Guard displayed an extraordinary level of self-control that only years of rigorous training and discipline could produce. As the tourist reached forward and pulled on the guard's mustache, the surrounding crowd collectively gasped. The act was not only shocking in its boldness, but also unsettling in its intimacy. Facial hair is a part of someone's identity, and in this case, it was part of a soldier's uniformed presentation, something he takes immense pride in. And yet, in that exact moment, the guard did not lash out. He didn't flinch, didn't make eye contact, didn't show anger or humiliation. He stood his ground, rigid and silent, embodying every ounce of his duty as a ceremonial soldier. This kind of composure is not ordinary. It is not a natural human reaction to being touched, especially in such a blatant and personal way. Most people would instinctively react with a slap of the hand, a push, a verbal command, or even a burst of fury. But the Queen's Guard is not trained like most. Their ceremonial duties require not just military excellence, but an incredible threshold for provocation, crowd behavior, and constant pressure under public gaze. They are briefed to anticipate unusual conduct, to maintain posture through distractions, and to carry the weight of national expectation on their shoulders during each shift. While the tourist may have seen his action as a moment of mischief or bravado, to the guard it was a test of patience and professionalism. The protocol is clear. Guards must assess the threat level of any interaction before responding. Physical contact allows for a permitted reaction, but the guard's first instinct must always be composure. This doesn't mean inaction, but controlled, measured response. The guard could have moved, he could have shouted, he could have used his weapon's handle to warn off the tourist, as some guards have done in similar past incidents. But in this case, he chose the higher ground. His restraint wasn't weakness, it was strength. There's an added layer of pressure because of the constant filming. These guards know that at any moment, they may become the subject of a viral video. Every blink, every movement, every reaction can be captured, shared, and interpreted in ways they can't control. If they overreact, even in self-defense, they might become the villain in the court of public opinion. But if they underreact, they risk undermining the seriousness of their post. It's a tightrope of judgment and professionalism few people are equipped to walk. In this instance, the guard's stillness told a story all its own. It demonstrated an inner strength and mental discipline far superior to the behavior of the person who provoked him. Where one man sought attention through disrespect, the other commanded respect through restraint. Many viewers who later watched the viral clip were less shocked by the act itself than they were by the guard's ability to remain unmoved. People commented across social platforms on the power of that silence, that expressionless endurance. Some called it the mark of a true soldier. Others saw it as a display of what maturity and pride in duty look like in contrast to juvenile antics. His stoicism also served a broader purpose. By maintaining control, the guard avoided escalating the situation. Had he reacted violently or emotionally, the scene might have turned chaotic. Security might have been forced to intervene more aggressively. The tourist could have been hurt. The media might have spun the incident into a debate about overreaction instead of disrespect. But because the guard chose to hold his position with dignity, the narrative stayed focused on the tourist's wrongdoing. The public's sympathy remained with the soldier. That choice, in itself, was strategic. And for fellow soldiers and guards, watching one of their own hold that line reinforced the code they live by. Composure under pressure, resilience in the face of ridicule, and unshakable focus. These are not just ideals taught during training. They are lived values on the job. The incident became a moment of pride for many in the armed forces community. It wasn't just about avoiding conflict. It was about standing for the uniform and the tradition it carries. In today's culture, where immediate reactions are celebrated and outbursts are rewarded with views and attention, the guard's unflinching discipline was a counter-narrative. It reminded people that real strength often lies in not responding, in mastering your emotions even when everything inside you demands justice or retaliation. In that still moment, the guard communicated more about honor, tradition, and duty than any words could have conveyed. The moment the tourist overstepped his bounds and physically touched the Queen's guard, a silent but powerful shift took place around him. From within the sea of spectators, uniformed security personnel and plainclothes officers stationed strategically across the palace perimeter began to move. Their training had prepared them for this kind of disruption, and their response was both immediate and calculated. No alarm was sounded, no chaos erupted, yet within seconds, the tourist who had committed the violation was no longer free to roam among the crowd. Security at royal sites like Buckingham Palace operates under layered protocols. On the surface, it may seem that the guards are the only authority present. But behind the scenes, surveillance cameras scan the crowds, undercover agents monitor behavior, and uniformed security remain posted in discreet but strategic positions. Their primary mission is to maintain order, uphold the integrity of the ceremonial events, and protect both the guards and the general public. When the tourist reached for the guard's face, it activated a protocol that had been rehearsed countless times. Within moments, two security officers approached the tourist from opposite sides. They didn't shout or create a scene. They simply moved with purpose and assertion, taking control of the situation before others had time to react. One placed a firm hand on the tourist's shoulder, signaling authority without aggression, while the other began asking questions in a tone that made clear this was no longer a casual encounter. The tourist's laughter faded. His phone, which had captured the moment, was still recording as he was quietly led away from the crowd. The surrounding onlookers were momentarily stunned. Some expected a more theatrical reaction. Others assumed nothing would come of the prank. But seeing the swift intervention sent a message that such behavior wouldn't be tolerated. It also re-established the seriousness of the environment. Buckingham Palace might be a popular tourist destination, but it is also an active royal residence, a political landmark, and a symbol of national pride. Security's job is to ensure that visitors treat it accordingly. As the tourist was escorted away, questions began to swirl. Would he be arrested, fined, banned from the site? These decisions would depend on multiple factors: intent, prior warnings, cooperation, and the nature of the contact. However, what mattered most in the immediate moment was that order had been restored. The crowd's attention returned to the guard, who had never broken formation, never spoken, and never needed to act. It was the security team who carried out the enforcement, preserving the ceremonial dignity of the scene. The way security handled the incident also demonstrated their balance between authority and discretion. They didn't need to make an example out of the tourist with handcuffs or public reprimands. Instead, their professionalism underscored the seriousness of the offense. It showed that while tourists are welcome, there are rules, and those rules are enforced not with drama but with efficiency. Part of their training also involves reading the crowd, assessing whether others might mimic the behavior or whether tensions are escalating. They watched for signs of agitation, keeping a close eye on how the rest of the spectators reacted. This quiet vigilance ensured that the incident didn't inspire copycat behavior or encourage further disrespect. The guards may be the front, facing representatives of tradition, but the security teams are the silent enforcers who make sure those traditions are protected. The quick and quiet removal of the offender served as a lesson to others. Those who had their phones out capturing the event now had footage not just of a prank, but of its consequences. The follow-up to the action became just as viral as the act itself, and rightly so. Because, while disrespect might get you attention, the disciplined and authoritative response reinforces the boundaries that should never be crossed. The message was clear. Disrupting order at such a sacred site isn't just frowned upon. It is actively and efficiently handled by professionals who are always watching, always ready. In the United Kingdom, especially within England, royal traditions are not just ceremonies but pillars of national identity. The monarchy is deeply interwoven into the fabric of British life, history, and governance. Every gesture, protocol, and tradition surrounding the monarchy has evolved over centuries and is treated with reverence, not only by officials and guards, but also by the vast majority of British citizens. The Queen's Guard, for instance, is more than just a photo opportunity for tourists. Their presence symbolizes continuity, discipline, and service. They represent centuries of royal protection and military excellence, and each detail of their appearance, from their red tunics to their bearskin hats, carries historical weight. British citizens grow up understanding the gravity of these symbols. School children learn about the monarchy. National holidays often involve royal celebrations, and the guards are a visible, almost sacred, representation of the crown's heritage. When tourists visit royal sites like Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, or the Tower of London, they're entering spaces that are not merely attractions, but institutions protected by time, sacrifice, and tradition. To act disrespectfully in those spaces is not just seen as a breach of decorum. It's perceived as a deeper insult to national pride. So when a tourist dares to treat a Queen's Guard as a mere spectacle for entertainment, it taps into a cultural nerve. The uniformed men and women stationed at these posts are not actors or animatronic figures. They are active, duty soldiers who have sworn allegiance to the crown and have gone through extensive training to qualify for this honorable position. Their role, though ceremonial in appearance, is grounded in genuine military service. The training is intense. The discipline is unwavering, and the expectations are clear. They are to maintain composure under all circumstances while upholding the dignity of the crown. Therefore, when someone tries to provoke a guard, like tugging at a mustache or attempting to mock them into reacting, it's not just childish. It's seen as an act of cultural ignorance and offense. The guards may be silent, but the symbolism they carry speaks volumes. And the public knows this. That's why the crowd's reaction is often swift and sharp, not just out of support for the guard, but as a way of defending the sanctity of the tradition itself. The UK also values formality in the face of absurdity. It's a hallmark of British cultural attitude. Keep calm and carry on, even in the presence of chaos. The guards embody this philosophy. When a disrespectful act occurs and the guard doesn't react, it becomes an act of silent defiance against disorder. It's a quiet but powerful reaffirmation of British values. Yet, there's a line. Touching, mocking, or physically violating a guard is not tolerated. That's when formality gives way to authority and security steps in. But the damage to decorum has already been done, and the collective offense is not easily forgotten. This is also why the public and media reactions are often intense. Even foreign tourists are expected to respect local customs when they visit sacred or official locations. It's part of being a global citizen. Just as one wouldn't walk into a religious temple in another country with shoes on or raise their voice at a shrine, Buckingham Palace and its surroundings demand a similar respect. That guard isn't a mannequin. He's a symbol of generations of sacrifice, history, and honor. To treat him as a joke is to disregard everything he represents. Tourism boards, etiquette guides, and travel influencers often warn visitors in advance. Look, admire, but do not provoke. Yet, every year, there are a handful of incidents that test these boundaries. And when they happen, they don't just offend the locals. They ignite a debate across social media platforms, reminding everyone that respect transcends borders. The incident of the mustache pulling wasn't just viral because it was unusual. It was viral because it exposed a deep cultural divide between those who understand the significance of royal traditions and those who treat every global location like a personal playground. What makes it worse is that disrespect like this often comes with cameras rolling. When people commit such acts, they often do it for the sake of virality or cheap laughs online. They see the uniform, the lack of response, and they think they've found a loophole for attention. But they fail to recognize that their moment of fun is layered in offense. The fact that a guard doesn't react doesn't make it acceptable. It means he's being professional, possibly even enduring discomfort or humiliation, because his role demands it. But the public sees, the internet sees, and more importantly, Britain remembers. The long-term damage isn't just in one video. It's in how people perceive the role of tradition, discipline, and ceremony. If these acts of disrespect are not called out, they risk becoming normalized. That's why the response is always swift, whether through public backlash, formal warnings, or, in some cases, legal consequences. The country won't allow centuries of tradition to be reduced to prank content. It's a reminder that respect is earned, but it's also expected, especially in places where heritage speaks louder than any single voice. The moment the video of the tourist pulling the guard's mustache was uploaded, it started gaining traction, first in niche travel groups, then across viral meme pages, and soon across global news outlets. What began as a misguided attempt at humor quickly spiraled into a full-blown online reckoning. Within hours, the man's face was recognized by thousands. His social media handles were tracked down, and his past posts, behavior, and comments were dissected by digital sleuths. The internet may love viral moments, but it loves accountability even more. He became the target of a phenomenon known as digital justice, where users around the world began flooding his accounts with comments ranging from criticism to full-blown condemnation. Words like disrespectful, entitled, and clown dominated the replies. While some people tried to defend him, claiming it was a harmless joke, the majority weren't buying it. People from different countries, cultures, and backgrounds united in their outrage, many of them pointing out how they would never behave that way in a foreign country, let alone at a landmark steeped in history. Offline, the consequences began piling up as well. Reports surfaced that he was identified by local authorities, and depending on his visa or residence status, such actions could potentially result in travel restrictions, fines, or even bans from certain public areas. If he was a part of a tour group or had a travel agent involved, they too may have distanced themselves from his behavior. Some employers have clauses regarding conduct abroad, especially in industries like education, law, or public service. If he worked in any such field, this act might have landed him in serious trouble back home. Family and friends weren't spared either. In many cases of viral shame, those associated with the individual often face collateral backlash. Parents, colleagues, and even casual acquaintances might have been contacted or dragged into the online chaos. It wasn't just about a mustache anymore, it was about public image, consequences, and the global power of public opinion. But beyond the digital pitchforks, there was also a valuable lesson that many took from the situation. Respect isn't just about avoiding punishment. It's about understanding the context, valuing the culture, and behaving as if you're a guest in someone else's home. The tourist might not have thought about that in the moment, but the world surely reminded him afterward. The viral mustache incident rapidly became more than just a funny or shocking video. It ignited widespread conversations about cultural sensitivity and the importance of respecting boundaries, especially when traveling abroad. Around the world, people began discussing how tourists often, whether knowingly or unknowingly, disregard local customs and traditions in their quest for entertainment or unique experiences. This particular moment served as a textbook example of how ignorance or entitlement can clash with deeply rooted cultural values. Travel has become more accessible than ever before, and with social media, moments that once would have gone unnoticed now reach millions in minutes. But with this unprecedented access comes responsibility. The incident underscored the importance of educating travelers on the do's and don'ts in foreign countries. Many cultural commentators, travel experts, and even governments use this moment as an opportunity to remind visitors that every culture has its own unwritten rules. These rules may be subtle or very explicit, but ignoring them risks not only offending the locals, but also potentially facing serious consequences. This incident, in particular, highlighted the sometimes wide gap between what tourists think is acceptable behavior and what locals deem disrespectful. The British monarchy and its traditions, unlike some other tourist attractions, carry a unique weight of historical, political, and emotional significance for many people. To those outside the UK, the guards might just be interesting, looking soldiers with funny hats, but to the British, they symbolize honor, sacrifice, and continuity of centuries-old heritage. Social media discussions frequently emphasized that while curiosity and engagement with different cultures are positive things, they must be balanced with respect. Many commenters lamented how clout-chasing behavior, doing outrageous things to get viral fame, has become a problem in the tourism industry. People don't always pause to consider the deeper implications of their actions in the name of social media likes or views. This conversation quickly extended beyond just British culture. It became part of a larger global dialogue on what it means to be a responsible traveler. From religious sites in Asia to tribal communities in Africa, cultural norms vary widely, and each deserves recognition and respect. Educators began incorporating discussions on cultural sensitivity into language and geography classes, while travel agencies began revising their guidelines and pre-trip orientations to emphasize respectful behavior. Additionally, this incident sparked debates on the role of humor and boundaries. Some argued that fun and lightheartedness are essential parts of human interaction, and that taking tradition too seriously might discourage genuine engagement. Others pushed back, pointing out that some lines, especially those involving respect for people and history, should not be crossed. The mustache pulling incident became a reference point in countless articles, forums, and panels exploring where humor ends and offense begins. In many ways, the guard's silence in the video became a powerful symbol for this discussion. He did not retaliate or react aggressively, demonstrating restraint and respect for his duty. Yet, the tourist's action was a breach of social contract, an unspoken agreement that tourists will act as guests and respect their host's customs. This divide highlighted the need for better cultural education worldwide. Ultimately, The incident served as a reminder that travel is not just about sightseeing or taking photos. It's about connecting respectfully with other cultures. It reminded the global audience that respect for tradition and cultural boundaries is a fundamental aspect of human decency. And in a world growing ever smaller through digital connectivity, such lessons have never been more important. When one storyteller uploaded their detailed and engaging breakdown of the Mustache incident, the video quickly captured the attention of millions worldwide. The channel's signature storytelling style, combining vivid narration, well-researched context, and sharp editing, transformed what many initially saw as a silly viral clip into a powerful cautionary tale about respect, discipline, and cultural awareness. Unlike many reaction videos that focus solely on shock or humor, one storyteller took the time to explore the broader implications of the incident. They provided historical background on the Queen's Guard, explained the significance of their role, and detailed why such provocations aren't just harmless pranks but serious breaches of decorum. This deeper dive helped viewers from all walks of life understand the stakes involved beyond the initial moment of contact. The video emphasized the guard's extraordinary composure, how he remained silent and stoic despite the blatant provocation, and used this as a lesson in discipline and professionalism. This contrasted sharply with the tourist's reckless behavior, highlighting how respect is something earned through self-control and duty rather than demanded through entitlement or spectacle. One storyteller's narrative also underscored the consequences of the tourist's actions, both socially and personally, reinforcing the idea that disrespect does not go unnoticed or unpunished in a connected world. The channel skillfully balanced empathy with accountability, encouraging viewers to reflect on their own behaviors and attitudes when encountering different cultures or traditions. The response from the audience was overwhelmingly positive. The comments section was flooded with messages praising the video's depth and thoughtful approach. Many viewers admitted they had initially laughed at the clip, but, after watching one storyteller's explanation, felt a renewed respect for the guards and an understanding of the importance of cultural sensitivity. This video became a kind of cultural moment in itself, reminding millions that viral content can be more than entertainment. It can be education and a catalyst for change. It reinforced the power of storytelling in bridging cultural gaps and fostering respect among diverse audiences. One storyteller's ability to take a fleeting viral moment and turn it into a meaningful discussion about respect and discipline elevated the conversation beyond the typical online outrage cycle. It showed how responsible content creators can shape public perception and promote values that matter deeply in today's interconnected world. The video also inspired viewers to be more mindful travelers and more empathetic global citizens. It encouraged a generation accustomed to instant gratification to pause and consider the deeper impact of their actions on others and on traditions that have stood the test of time. In the end, one storyteller didn't just share a viral story. They reminded the world that respect is timeless, discipline is admirable, and cultural understanding is essential. Their storytelling turned a moment of controversy into an enduring lesson for audiences everywhere. This story teaches us more than just a viral moment. It uncovers the invisible threads that hold a society's identity together: the respect for tradition, the unyielding discipline of those who serve, and the unspoken agreements we must honor when we cross cultural lines. From the centuries old customs of the British monarchy to the Guard's silent composure, this incident reminds us that respect is never optional. It is earned, maintained, and fiercely protected. When, one chooses to mock or disregard these values, the ripple effects extend far beyond the immediate moment, triggering backlash that spans the digital world and real life alike. The global conversation it sparked about cultural sensitivity shows us how crucial it is to approach every new environment with humility and an open heart. And thanks to storytellers like those at A One Storyteller, who transform fleeting viral clips into powerful lessons, millions have been reminded that respect and discipline are timeless virtues, ones that uphold the dignity of nations and individuals alike.